detail all uniform members. Hey, then, up!
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare above the sea air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Up!
Thank you, Chief. It is particularly appropriate that in Evanston on 9/11, to remember that tragic day, we have standing room only crowd. So thank you all for coming and for showing Evanston at its finest. As we remember the victims and mourn their losses, I hope that we will also remember that 9/11 was full of acts of heroism, acts of gallantry, acts of kindness, acts of compassion, acts of sharing. And remember the finest parts of our nation's history, that was a day when we came together as a country, a day when we all had a similar purpose, and a day when we all united. And I hope that 10 years later, in a country full of divisions, that in Evanston and across the nation we will remember that spirit of coming together, that spirit of working together, and that spirit that shows what is Evanston at its finest, and also was for that time our nation at its finest, everyone working together and everyone showing compassion to one another. So as we mourn the victims and remember the tragedy, let us remember too that there were wonderful, wonderful moments when we as a country were at our finest. Thank you all for being here.
Cook County since 1831 and Evanston since 1863 have come together at events like this to remember wars, remember assassinations, and 2 times to remember surprise attacks on American soil, Pearl Harbor and 9/11. Out of both attacks came a sense of unity and commitment to justice for the entire country. Both attacks affected diverse groups of victims and first responders. Each attack caused many to lose their lives and dashed the hopes of many families. Each attack left the country's future uncertain, and each attack led us into a war on multiple theaters of action. But each attack led us to a better sense of public service and public safety for all our country. In 1951, at the 10-year remembrance of Pearl Harbor, here in Evanston, people were remembering the brave military who led us out of the gloom of December 7th. Today, we remember not only the 9/11 victims, but especially the first responder, firefighters, police, and EMTs, whose dedication to service led us out of the gloom of 9/11 and was the basis of our unity after the attack. Here in Evanston, we must remember that dedication to service and resolve to bring with a new vigor to public service and public safety to ensure that justice is had for all our citizens. Yesterday, I watched a New York City fire vehicle driving through Evanston under the escort of the Evanston Police Department. The members of the New York City Fire Department and their fellow first responders are the face of unity and justice for all today. The USS Arizona in Pearl Harbor is joined today by the Flight 93 Memorial and the Ground Zero Memorial as sacred land for this country. We cannot forget, we must remember to encourage public service and work to protect the public safety of all. I want to thank especially the Evanston Fire Department and the Evanston Police Department for their work in ensuring our safety. Thank you.
At approximately 8:46 a.m., Ladder 6 was preparing to change shifts when they heard the sound of a plane flying above them. We could hear it hit the North Tower, Jonas said. As we were responding, we could see large gaping holes in two sides of the North Tower. There was smoke and fire coming out under pressure. It was an incredible sight. The crew made its way to the World Trade Center and entered the tower to receive orders. I had 22 years on the fire department at the time, and nothing prepared me for what I was seeing. A deputy chief was about to give them orders when they saw a large black shadow on the ground and heard another loud explosion. We didn't know what it was, but a man came running in from the outside and said a second plane had just hit the other tower. Now we knew we were under attack, and this was not an accident. Jonas said one of the most poignant things that was said to him that day was by a firefighter standing near him. He said, "Men, we may not live through today." All of them wished each other luck and shook each other's hands. After receiving the orders to do a search and rescue of the North Tower, they went up by foot, making it to the 27th floor. They stopped to catch their breath and a quick drink of water when they felt and heard the collapse of the South Tower. That was an indication to me that our mission was no longer workable and that it was time for us to get out of there, Jonas said. As they headed down the stairs, they encountered a 59-year-old woman named Josephine Harris on the 20th floor. She had a limp and was unable to make it on her own. One of the firefighters turned to his captain, Jonas, and said, what are we going to do with her? We decided to put ourselves in harm's way and save her. They started to carry her downstairs, but were blocking people from behind, so they had to step aside to let all the people go through. When they made it to the 4th floor, Harris fell to the floor and told the firefighters to leave her behind. We were not going to leave her, Jonas said. As they made their way back to the stairwell, the collapse of the North Tower had begun. We kept waiting for the big beam or the big piece of concrete to come and get us, but it never did. Once the collapse stopped, a roll call was given, and everyone was accounted for. There were a total of 13 people in the stairwell, and somehow all were unscathed. But now they were trapped. We went through the ordeal of trying to figure out how to get out. And once we realized we couldn't help ourselves, we came to the realization that we now had to be rescued. 4 hours passed, and suddenly they spotted a ray of sunshine that hit the stairway. The dust had settled, and the air had cleared, allowing the light to come through. With the aid of the light, the crew was able to find a way to exit the rubble. They tied one firefighter to a rope and told them to make contact with a firefighter they saw in the distance. When rescuers arrived, a Stokes basket and a stretcher was used to bring Josephine Harris to safety, and the others were guided out. Captain Jonas said it was overwhelming and a heartwarming sight to see one by one my men make it out to West Street. It's hard to believe it's been 10 years since that day. But we must never forget. And we must always keep the innocent victims and our fallen firefighters and police officers and other rescue workers in our hearts and in our memories. Thank you. I'd like to call up our police chief, Chief Eddie.
Initial casualty estimates were upwards of 40,000. It is through the valor of those New York firefighters, New York police officers, and New York Port Authority officers that that number was substantially reduced. I think that is the essence of that quote and the essence of our expectations of ourselves as first responders and your expectations of us also. This morning you get a quick glimpse into the traditions of our service. The bagpiper, something that was brought over with the Irish and Celtic immigrants after the Great Potato Famine. That became a part of firefighter and police traditions at funerals and other solemn occasions. Also, you see our honor guards, our badges, our commendation ribbons. These are all symbols of the commitment we have to each other. When these events occurred, your sacrifices will not be forgotten. As I look at the men and women who stand in rank today, they have made that commitment to each other to remember those sacrifices. I ask you too to continue to remember their efforts and their commitment to you and their commitment to your safety. Thank you again for joining us this morning.
Hey. All right. Ready. Hey. All right. 3, 9, 4.
Firefighter's prayer. When I am called to duty, God, wherever flames may rage, give me strength to save a life, whatever be its age. Let me embrace a little child before it is too late, or save an older person from the horror of that fate. Enable me to be alert and to hear the weakest shout, and to quickly and efficiently to put the fire out. I want to fill my calling to give the best in me, to guard my friend and neighbor, and to protect our property. And if according to your will, while on duty I must answer death's call, bless with your protecting hand my family one and all.